We are back with another episode of the Four Train Savages podcast, episode number 239. Today is Friday, April 17th. Tyler, the New York Yankees just finished up a series against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I guess that's what they still go by. I think, though, they go by the Los Angeles Angels totally now, but they just split a series with the Los Angeles Angels. Coming off then a past weekend where they get swept by the Tampa Bay Rays. And before that, when we last spoke was before or I was about to say Oakland Athletics, the Las Vegas A's, and they lost that series. So a sort of skid or not sort of a skid for this New York Yankees team in April, coming off of a nice start to the year when they're playing against San Francisco and Seattle and then Miami. So a up and then down time for the Yankees. And now they sit in the MLB standings for the AL East. They sit a game and a half behind the Tampa Bay Rays. And now they're just where they started the year when they stacked up against the rest of the AL East. They were at the top. Now they're just more middle of the pack and in the mix with the rest of those teams. And I think that's going to be a talking point just throughout the rest of the season. Is it's going to be back and forth because a lot of these teams in the AL East have flaws, and we're now seeing the Yankees have flaws, but then they also have a good amount of good things to take out of these, like Aaron Judge
Mhm.
getting going. We see Ben Rice is still good, but there's things to talk about, man. There's things that we have to address on this pod that they're as fans watching, you can't help but be a little frustrated, but we also have to keep in mind that it's April 17th and there's a lot of baseball to be played. But what were your impressions of how they had these last three series and then heading into KC, what's the vibe going in?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think generally the outlook is everything you kind of were worried about in February. You have more ammo to be worried about it, right? Like everything in terms of the bullpen coming into the season, it's a problem. Bottom half of the order, left side of the infield is a problem. Like you said, Rob, it is April 17th. So I think some of this is, nothing's happening, nothing's changing imminently. There's no trade to be made at this moment in time. So they're going to let a lot of this ride out and kind of continuously feel out what moves they'll have to make. But yeah, man, it's almost like a good thing that the division looks like it's going to be a bloodbath, which is, kind of what a lot of those predictions were, I feel like, which is like, hey, the Orioles got better. We think the Sox will be a little bit better. Doesn't, look like that at this moment in time, but a bunch of teams that'll beat up each other throughout the
Mhm.
year. So, don't know if anyone had the Rays, jumping off to a nice, little first place start, but impressions were all right, Rob. I was never really worried about Judge. I was never really worried about Ben Rice hitting. The more frustrating thing was, Ben Rice getting, you know, a spot on the bench a couple times, which,
Yeah.
Boone came out with some quotes like being able to drop Benny wherever he wants, but I don't know. Pinch hitting's hard. Let Goldie do that. So I don't know. It was this series almost felt like they lost all four games, even though they split. And then coming off a sweep in the Trop, you don't feel wonderful. But
No.
I guess you're not killing. You're not hating yourself either at this moment in time. You're just kind of like left feeling grasping for more, feeling empty.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath in this AL East, so you can't get too ahead of we can't get too ahead of ourselves as fans, and we also have to uh, know that the road ahead is it's still a winnable division. It's still the Yankees still have the talent on the roster, at least at the top of their game on the starting rotation, and some of the guys in the lineup that can carry you to a division title. It's just we're going to be doing this again for, well, now it's not 162, but whatever is left, 140 some odd games,
A
150
lot of
some odd
games to
games.
play.
So,
Yeah.
I think since the last time we spoke, there's a ton of stuff that happened. I know things are busy in Somerset. Watching Anthony Volpe started on Tuesday, so he is on his way back. And interestingly enough, Jose Caballero is starting to play well, which
hmm
when we were speaking last, it's saying, okay, there's not really much he can do, and still they'll give Anthony
Well, he
Volpe.
doubled his production in like
But
4 games,
yeah, he
virtually.
doubles his production in a very short period of time. I think he's now, I was looking at it a little earlier, he's above a 600 OPS. Uh, so
Look at
it's
that.
nothing,
That's a standard at shortstop for the Yankees.
nothing to ride home about. But yeah, he did double his stats. He had a really excellent series against the Angels this week, so maybe we'll see him continue it into the weekend. And the
Trent,
big
a couple
thing,
big homers. That was cool.
the big thing today, Tyler, on Friday, April 17th, while we're recording, Garrett Cole will be making a rehab start in Somerset. So that's
Before
also
Rodon.
a big deal.
Isn't
And
that cool?
we had heard that he was ahead of schedule, so that is now those reports being clearly true that he's
Accurate,
getting
yeah.
himself going a little earlier. Could we see him in May? I would not be surprised if we see him back pretty soon, a part of this rotation. And the rotation again,
We'll
outside of
think what, five
Schlittler.
rehab starts probably?
Yeah. So maybe to do the
So
math on
call
it, we
it
could see him late May.
3.5 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. But and
4 weeks.
now looking at some of the back end of the rotation, when you're seeing Luis Heel struggle a bit, Will Warren in that first game against the Angels got into some trouble. Not necessarily his fault, I'd say. Jose Caballero's blunder at shortstop let that spiral a tad,
Hmm.
but didn't look the best. Ryan Weathers has had some good opportunities and has looked like a quality pitcher, but he struggled a little bit with those back-to-back home runs that we'll talk about. So Cole coming back is a big deal, and then we'll have to hear some more about Rodon. So that's the big news, at least in a week of struggle bus for the Yankees. I love to hear that Garrett Cole is coming into his rehab stint. And yeah, like you said, I think probably around 5 starts, 3 weeks is probably what they'll give him, and they'll obviously he'll have to listen to
Yeah.
his body and see how he's feeling. So
They
that's
they
awesome to hear.
said, yeah, they said he's going to throw 40 pitches. So I'm thinking, they'll increase by like 10 pitches every start. So 5 starts, 90
Mhm.
pitches, comes back, debuts with a limit of 90, 95. I'm with that, Rob. But I also thought it was kind of interesting because, Rodon was supposed to be a few weeks ahead of Cole, but then with his little, that weird like hamstring report came out with Rodon, and he's not making a rehab start yet. He's doing another live BP, and then hopefully, so big guns coming back though.
That's a good thing. And we saw Jake Bird get sent down to AAA after a bad outing with
Yeah.
the in this Angel series, and then
Just not the same pitcher that
Yeri
they
De Los
traded for.
Santos comes up, and then he gets sent back down. So this bullpen is just
Ring
not
around the
in a good
rosy has
spot. I
started.
don't know if you listened to the Talking Yanks guys when they had Boone on, but he was saying that he's liked what he's seen from the bullpen, and I know he has to talk it up. So I'm not. I just know the pattern to which he speaks about his players, and I was honestly more frustrated with him about the Ben Rice stuff that we'll get into about the lineup, but uh, the bullpen is top heavy when it comes to Bednar and Tim Hill. And some other good instances in the bullpen, but overall it's a problem. I think it's a problem. And we know it's going to change because there's going to be filtered in players. Already we're seeing it. Yerly De Los Santos isn't someone that's going to be groundbreaking. He already clearly was sent
Yeah.
down, but they're going to be filtering out this pen a lot. We do know a little bit of the route to which they will go to make things happen. I think they really showed it in that third game where they go kind of Tim Hill, Cruz, Hedrick, Bednar. That seems like a bit of a winning formula. I know
It's the
Cruz
only
scares you.
formula.
Yeah.
Because if not, you have to go, dude, having Yarborough and Blackburn as like two long men in your bullpen is just kind of, they're just like wasted. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but they're kind of just wasted space. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like no matter what, if we're up by 4 runs or down by 4 runs, you almost just have to bring in Hedrick, Tim Hill, Fernando Cruz. And then
Mm.
Bednar is like your closer, obviously, but they don't have, I don't like it at all.
No. 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 So let's talk about these games. Also, when we get into more about the Jazz stuff, because that in the Tampa series, we heard about some of his comments after the game. for one of the decision making about questioning the rules and everything. It's a bit of old news, but we'll preface it with how his performance has been for this Angels series because it continued even though the warm weather was around in the Bronx. It did not translate for Jazz in terms of production to this point. I think he will get it going, but I definitely think it's a bit of a cause for concern, a smidge when last year he was a huge part of your lineup and then you're not getting that production. It's a reason why the
Hmm.
Yankees offense has been faltering a little bit. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about Jazz and we'll talk about those comments that he did make as well. If this is your first time listening, be sure to subscribe, leave us a rate and review, comment on YouTube what you think of the team, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, as well as TikTok. So game one was to the overall series in terms of offensive production. If you're just a fan going to this game, or if you're maybe a young kid looking to watch the stars, in terms of the production that you're getting from Judge and Trout in this series, it was nuts. It was
It was very cool.
legitimately nuts. Because Trout broke a record for most home runs in a series by an opposing player against the Yankees, 5 home runs. He went stupid. Oswald
Pretty insane.
Peraza had the series of his life outside of that, letting that fly ball in game three drop, which honestly gave the Yankees the opportunity to win. If he catches that ball, you
Hmm.
don't know. You could be looking at a series loss. But in terms of overall uh, fanfare and just the getting your money's worth, I think this series was really enjoyable just to watch
Yes.
outside, just home runs galore. So if you're going to the stadium, because there's times where I've gone to the stadium and you don't see home runs, and it's it'll be a
That was
Yankees
fun.
win, and it's always fun to see the ball go out of the ballpark. So this was definitely one instance where that happened. Um, so game one, Will Warren on the mound goes 3 2/3, 3 hits, 4 runs, none of them earned. And like I said before, Caballero in that I believe it was the top of the fourth allowed that run to come in. Thank when he just allows Trout to get on base, not fielding the ball cleanly, and then it spiraled after the Yankees had a 4-0 lead. They immediately tie it in the top of the fourth with just a spiraling amount of runs going across and a lot of base traffic, and they were able to score it 4-4 in the top of the fourth. Then Trent Grisham in the bottom of the fifth puts them back up 7-4. And Tyler, just real quick side note, when Trent
Mhm.
Grisham coming into this series was the Dominguez conversation is coming up more.
It was getting
Everyone,
hot
it was getting hot. So Trent is now, and overall for the series,
and warm early,
Trent had 2 home runs in this game, and for
which
now
is really all he's done all year.
yeah, for now he's silenced it a little bit, and I think
Yes.
that's. But I don't know what you made of Trent overall from this series.
No, I mean it was good to see like two massively clutch homers, which is what he did all last year. Like
Hmm.
it was very good to see that. Um, and right, like his numbers obviously still don't look good on the year, but it was good to see him turn a little bit of a corner. I mean, Cabby started to turn a little bit of a corner this series. Obviously, Judge has been coming to fruition. But one thing Trent is still doing is still leads the team in walks. So
Getting
like,
on base.
yeah, I did. Obviously, that they got him to hopefully repeat that 30 plus homer season. Um, but it was really good to see the two massive clutch homers in this game because that's kind of what he did all regular season last year. Yes, you could say the playoff stuff, but everyone was bad but Judge in the postseason last year. So
Yeah.
I was pumped to see Trent like saw flashes of last year, which is all I want. I
Hmm.
don't I don't need him to like do more than that. It'd be great, but
Yeah. So, I mean, in the game, 2 home runs from Judge, 2 home runs from Trout, and then 2 home runs from Grisham. Like you said, when the Angels came back and tied the game at 4-4, he gave that home run in the bottom of the fifth. And then as the Yankees and Angels went back and forth, and Trout hit the home run in the top of the eighth to put them up 10-8. In the bottom of the ninth, Grisham homers when Jazz gets on base to make it 10-10. and then we got to see a walk off thanks to a wild pitch from Jordan Romano, who in
They
this
own Jordan Romano,
he
dude.
he came
They
into
own him on
this
the Jays a
series.
little bit too.
He came into this series. I mean, yeah, whenever he's pitched, he has been not very good against the Yankees. And I mean, he came into the series with good numbers and then left the Bronx with not so good numbers.
Yeah.
So, but this was a really entertaining game overall. And I'm going to take the wins as however you can take them. And this was the game where Jake Bird just looked terrible and what got him sent back down to AAA. And I don't know when we'll be seeing him next. Probably, hopefully not very soon, because Jake Bird is just there's some of these pitchers like Jake Bird and Blackburn that you're just watching and you're saying
There's no good outcome happening here.
there's no good outcome. You're hoping for the best, but it's probably not going to shake out the way you want it to. And you're right. When he came over, you're not thinking he's going to be some
Well, he
relief
was
pitcher.
good for Colorado for like a couple months, you
Yeah, and
know?
you're thinking he's not going to light the world on fire, but it's
It's like if
every
you can be, yeah, if you can be a, fifth inning guy, it it just stinks because then you instantly have to just go to Hedrick Hill and Cruz.
mhm. Yeah.
But I'm all set on Jake Bird. They like kind of paraded all spring that like they think Jake Bird was like a changed pitcher. Um, Not seeing it
Apparently not.
personally.
Apparently not. And then game two was a 7-1 loss for the Yankees. Ryan Weathers in this one goes 5 innings pitch, 5 earned runs, 2 walks. Actually had 10 strikeouts, but this is the one where he opened it up, where back to back to back home runs. But I'm not going to
That's
talk. I'm
freaking
not going to
crazy,
talk.
man.
This is where we're not going to talk about the performance of the game, because yeah, the craziness started and it felt like the game was already a loss before it even started in a way.
Hmm.
And even well before those back to back to back home runs, Ben Rice kept out of the lineup in this one, along with Jazz and Bellinger. And my impressions of it was I wasn't mad that Jazz is left out of the lineup. And
He
really,
needed like a seat
yeah, and
for
really,
a
even
day.
Bellinger, I'd be a little more frustrated about. But even then, I'm saying, okay, they're playing 7 games in a row. You got to give Bellinger a day on the bench. But Ben Rice sitting in this game is,
And what was that? 3 out of the last 5 he had sat
yeah,
or something like that.
Ben Rice sitting at this point is unacceptable. And I am someone who is, and I've said it on this podcast, that I don't love the idea of him catching a lot of games. It's why I want Austin Wells to just flat out be better. But when Ben Rice right now is hitting 327, 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, and has a 1.166 OPS, there is no rationale that Aaron Boone or this team and this franchise can give that he shouldn't be in the lineup. He is clearly the best hitter in this lineup right now, as Judge is now getting back. But to this point, he is the best hitter in this lineup, and there is no rationale that the Yankees can give. I'm done with hearing about the lefty on lefty. There's only one way you're going to find out that Ben Rice can hit lefties, and he has earned that right to hit against lefties and see what his numbers can be, because he has been the best player or best hitter on this team. There's just no way around it. And Boone's comments afterwards, trying to say, "Well, I like Benny as a bench option coming off and being a weapon." Hey, Aaron, you know
But
what's
you
better?
could say the same thing about Aaron Judge.
But
No, I'd love to drag and drop Aaron Judge.
Tyler, Aaron, what's better than 2 at-bats or 1 at-bat in a game? You know what's better? Maybe 4 or 5 at-bats during a game. Like, what are we talking about? So Aaron Boone and whoever's making Aaron Boone's making the lineup. When Aaron Boone is making this lineup, Ben Rice needs to be in there almost every day. I get it if he needs a rest day, but almost every time you're filling out that lineup, Ben Rice needs to be a given. Just like Aaron Judge is a given in that lineup, just like Cody Bellinger is a given in that lineup, Ben Rice cannot be looked at as a platoon player with a 38-year-old Paul Goldschmidt. It's just unacceptable. And a lot of Yankee fans are frustrated, rightfully so, because it was fucking stupid. It just was. So I don't think they're
It
going to do it as
was
often, but you can't do it. You cannot do
no.
it.
I don't think they are either. I think, listen, I was annoyed with it too, and I really hope they don't keep doing this against lefties because they've outwardly said like he's the starting first baseman. He's gonna get everyday run basically. Um, I don't know if they were just trying if they circled this game on the schedule and went, hey, because I think they have what they don't have an off day for a little bit, or they have like 13 games and 40 like something. They have like a lot of games in a couple weeks or whatever. So I don't
Mhm.
know if they circled this often. They went Ben, Jazz, Cody, boom. We don't care that we just lost, five straight or whatever, or five out of, or, got swept by Tampa and then came in and, squabbled in this series a little bit. So I hope it was that more than the platoon thing, honestly. But I agree. I mean, Ben Rice also tied for the team lead in walks and is been the best hitter in baseball essentially, and definitely your best hitter on the team. Um, Needs to be in the lineup. So I'm with you there, Rob. I
I think he
really,
has the second highest OPS in the sport.
yeah, 1.166, 230 OPS plus. I mean, and on top of it, it was just like if you roll out this lineup that consisted of Goldie, Grichuk, and Rosario in place of your three starters, you better win.
Mhm.
So we don't have to have this conversation because we went, all right, Benny got a day, Belly got a day, and the Yanks come out, and Rosario had a big game again. No, you got worked by Detmers all day, and
And here's the thing too. Coming into that game before Detmer's numbers as a lefty, he has lefties had a career 764 OPS, and then righties had a 740 OPS against Detmers. So
so that's the guy that you let him get comfortable against lefties on.
there's just no logic behind it. There really
Fair
isn't.
enough.
And they just that's where this is an instance, and I'm not going to lose my mind because it's April 17th, but this is this some of the things that rightfully so make us scratch our head. And that's just I hope it doesn't continue like you mentioned because it's a
Fair enough.
problem. Now, Ben Rice is becoming one of the best hitters on the team and maybe in the sport. So you cannot r- take him out of your lineup. You simply cannot do it. So,
Yeah,
um,
you're just leaving opportunity for him to get better on the bench.
and I think to this point he was on. I think I saw a stat that someone put together that when he was sat on Tuesday, that he's on pace. I don't know how it's changed because he sat maybe 3 or 4 games already this season, and I think he was already on pace for maybe to play 127 games. And we said Tyler that
That'd
he
make me
needs to be,
vomit. He needs to play 145.
and we said that he needs to be at first base at least for 75% of the
Mhm.
season. But
I
yeah,
don't want him
he
to catch it all, Rob,
I don't either.
honestly.
And but
I
now
don't
he's
want
going
him to catch one inning.
but now he's going to I think he's going to have to I don't know when it will come, and we're going to talk about some of the because you mentioned Randall Grichuk. I think JC Escara is also a problem because there's just players on this roster, and I know it's April, and I'm going to respect that, but there's players on this roster that really shouldn't eventually be there that were I don't
Oh, like more than a few players that probably won't be
we're
here.
not relying on them necessarily, but you're kind of I mean you are kind of relying on them in
Well,
a way. So
yeah, I mean, all of this is in conjunction with Cole and Rodon, is they have a trial period until Cole and Rodon come back. Like, I feel like that's what it's been. I know this is like we're speaking offensively, but I feel like it kind of trickles into like the bullpen decisions they'll make.
mhm.
It comes into whatever roster moves they'll make. Um, with the kids too, they're like, all right, well, while Cole and Rodon are coming back, let's see if we can get some run out of Grichuk and see if we can get a really hot April out of him. Let's see if Goldie gives us a little bit more before we have to fully lean into Ben Rice. Like, I just feel like they're kind of in like, I don't want to call it like, not like a transition period, but they're feeling out the season for until their big guns come back,
Yeah.
which
No.
feels like it's they're doing it offensively and on the pitching side.
Mhm. They are. Essentially, they are. And I mean, the funny thing that came from this game was Ben Rice was the only run that scored with a sacrifice, or was the first run that scored with a sacrifice fly. One thing that made me just
It's like, why
beyond
even pinch hit him? Like, what?
Just one thing that made me
Like,
beyond
what's the point?
frustrated in the sixth inning was Ryan McMahon setting down a bunt with nobody on
Yeah,
nobody on, nobody
he's
out,
got to stop bunting.
down seven.
They,
That just tells you how putrid he is offensively. It's and Ahmed Rosario's been
I,
getting a lot of run. So
yeah, I hate it, Rob, too, because we essentially had what we have in Ryan McMahon. We had it, excuse me, in Oswald Peraza last year. A guy that can play defense and do nothing at the plate. But I mean, Peraza's coming around. Who knows? But like,
it's only fitting that he is when he's not on the Yankees.
but one guy's making 700 grand, the other's making 15 million.
Yeah.
So I
No,
don't know.
that
McMahon
was
is a case study right
that
now.
was that was definitely an insult. Was going from Peraza clearly didn't work out here when he was given the opportunities, didn't follow through. And then for him to return in this series while we have Ryan McMahon as an issue at third base, who plays good defense more times than not, can't hit a lick. And then Oswald Peraza comes in here, who's playing the same position and just was an absolute dominating player for the week
Yeah.
here. So they have no, it's funny, but it's also sad for Yankee
The
fans.
Angels got a fun little roster. Not like, I don't know about the pitching, but they got a fun little lineup, I will say. With Zach
So
Neto, Mike Trout, Joe Adele. I
I
like
know
that.
we were
Soler.
talking about maybe wanting Neto for this team. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, that'd be wonderful. I'd trade anyone.
Um, so game number three was also one that the Yankees were able to win late with a walk off. They scored in the bottom of the first with another Judge home run to open things up. Grisham then scores two with a single RBI single to score in Chisholm as well as Caballero. And then in the top of the third, Frazier hits a home run to make it a 3-1 game. O'Hoppe hits a home run in the top of the fifth, and then Trout again hits another home run to make it a 4-3 game. And then in the bottom of the ninth was where we get for the full play-by-play. It's
Thank God.
Peraza. Thank you. While we've been talking about him not not performing in Yankee land, but then performing this series against them as a Los Angeles Angel, lets the ball drop, a miscommunication with the shortstop. Ball falls down. Jazz gets on. Austin Wells then walks, and then Jose Caballero hits a double into center in the gap, and then scores in Wells and Jazz Chisholm. A little bit of a risky send by Luis
Hmm.
Rojas at third, but it ended up working out, and Wells just gets in under the tag. And I think too, when we're talking about who's on deck, Tyler, it was in the order, it was Ryan McMahon, but Ahmed Rosario was ready to pinch hit in that situation. But I think Caballero in this series, he also hit a home run in the prior game that we failed to mention. But he has been. When you're thinking about it, you don't want to turn over the lineup. You don't want to. You just want Caballero to do it right then and there. You don't want to go to the ghost runner rule when once you get beyond the bottom of the ninth. So Caballero coming up big could be kind of a momentum starter for him, and he had three hits in the final game as well. So it was an exciting walk off, like really electric. That they get away from the jaws of defeat and they're able to pull this one out, just similar to the way that they did the first game. So that's why you could say on one hand they could have lost the series and gotten swept, but we'll take the wins however they can get them. And that certainly that third game was like really exciting and good for Caballero. And thank you, Oswald Peraza is the way I'll put it.
Correct. Thank you, Oswald Peraza. I guess for some reason I just pessimistically viewed and watched this game after the day before. Um, I was like, you didn't even deserve to win, but I'm glad you did. But yeah,
You pulled a
I
me.
guess I
You pulled a
should.
me.
I literally have been feeling like like this game. I was like, no, we lost three out of these games. Um, but yeah, big to see Cabby. I'm glad they made the Angels make a play. It felt like sometimes, at least last year, they were like almost stupidly aggressive, like running to home at times, like where players would be caught, three steps dead at home plate. But I'm glad they made, the Angels make a perfect play in which they almost did, but didn't, and put pressure on their defense. So I feel like that's how the Yankees should be aggressive. Um, and it felt like it obviously paid off.
Yeah. And then, and this one also we'll mention a little bit was the pen actually gave this was the route that they took with the bullpen as well that we mentioned a little earlier. That's sort of the bread and butter when they do have the bullpen perform well was Tim Hill, Fernando Cruz, Hedrick to Bednar. No earned runs. The only ones coming from Luis Heel, who again is probably the prime candidate to either be sent back to AAA or if they ever try and decide to convert him to a bullpen arm because he doesn't look like he looks closer to 2025 Luis Heel already, and it feels like 2024 Luis Heel is not coming back around. That's just the way it
Just a
feels.
memory.
It's just a memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. It doesn't feel like he has a single pitch he can go to. He has no location, as that's kind of always been his struggle. And it just kind of further exemplifies like Luis Heel came in and had decent results last year when he came back from injury. But every single Yankee fan watching those games knew those results were somewhat skewed. Um, and it's honestly a shame. So I do think Heel will probably get kicked to AAA and then inevitably back to the pen before they probably call up one of the kids, and put him in the pen.
Yeah. And then game number 4 was yesterday. Judge and Stanton both homer in this game. They were at one point at the after the Stanton home run in the bottom of the third, were up 3-2, and then Oswald Peraza again, that pesky guy that's playing against us now, who used to be here. Trout
That
scores and
pesky
Adele
guy.
score to tie the game at 3-3 when they're down or they go up 4-3 and or excuse me, Peraza doubles, Trout scores, Adele the third, then Grissom goes in for the back and the top of the sixth and then scores in to make it 4-3, and then Lau singles in the top of the sixth as well to make it a 6-3 game. Ben Rice cut it to 6-4, but then Trout hit another home run in the top of the seventh to make it a 7-4 game, and then Joe Adele hits a grand slam and to make it an 11-4 game. Fernando Cruz did not look great. Chivilli also made an appearance in this one, and Ryan Yarborough. And just overall, this was probably the most disappointing start too for Max Fried overall. 5 1/3, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. So not a good day for Max Fried in the office. Was a bit of a disappointment for him. And they move on to play. Luckily, they're still at home this weekend, and they're welcoming KC, and Cam Schlittler pitches tonight. And this is a good test for Cam Schlittler to say, okay, coming off some not so
Rebound.
hot starts for him, a little bit trending downwards, and now coming off a Max Fried start, that you need him to be a stopper, and they really need to win this game tonight to kick things off for this weekend. So, I don't know what you made of Max though in this start. It was disappointing because usually they win when Stanton and Judge both hit home runs, but it was one of the
Hmm.
games that they end up losing, and Fried did not look like Max Fried that we know or have learned to know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like, unfortunately, they had our number the majority of this series in terms of pitching, outside of, a couple spurts here and there. I'm not really putting much into it in terms of, my expectation or like outlook on Max Fried or anything. I really thought they were going to win this game when Ben Rice homered in the sixth. But then the Angels just said, hold on, hold my beer the next couple innings. So Max Fried, not great, obviously. My bigger gripe again is kind of like I'm just scared of like relying on Fernando Cruz. I think he's a good like fifth inning guy in or like fifth guy out of the bullpen. He's like in there, tree trust of top three, which I don't love. Really the pen was still just the bigger thing for me here. Yeah, Fried's gonna have a bad start here and there. Um, as all pitchers will, but Cruz kind of letting this get away was the bigger thing for me.
Yeah, I think he's very. I love the energy from Fernando Cruz, and
It's fun to
A
watch.
lot of Yankee fans get captivated by it. But you've made a lot of good points of when he's not hitting the zone with that sinker. It's just
With
not
the splitter,
the
yeah.
splitter. It's just not it's not a good time for him sometimes, and it could get away from him. I don't think he is. I don't want to call him unreliable because I don't think that, but I do agree with you that I think
He's a
him in
trick pitch pitcher. That's the best
a
thing I
trick
can
pitch
say.
pitcher, and I think him in that you're right. Like if the Yankees get in trouble in maybe a fifth or sixth inning and they want to keep it around there, and he should be a guy that's more so in the role that Jake Bird was playing. I think I do
Yeah,
agree with that.
yeah, exactly.
I think
I hope that's their goal, somehow. But yeah, I mean, I was talking to a buddy and I said Devin Williams is literally a version of Fernando Cruz at this point in his career, where he's got one good pitch, but if he can't throw it for a strike and the opponent knows he can't throw it for a strike, you don't have a good enough fastball, you don't have another pitch, you're kind of just screwed. Where you're going to either get rocked because they're going to sit on the fastball because they know you can't throw the splitter for a strike. In Devin's case, they're just going to sit on the fastball because they know you can't throw a changeup for the strike. And on that day that you are throwing it, at the bottom of the zone and it looks nasty, you're good. But if you're off on that one pitch on any given day, we're kind of SOL, my friend. Um, so I love watching Fernando Cruz as everyone does. I'm just, this is me just thinking realistically where like I don't know how long this is gonna positively go on for, And his results have been fine this year. It wasn't a good outing, obviously, um, in this game, but I don't know. The pen is just like, where do you go? And
yep,
he's one of them.
that's how we're gonna feel for quite some time.
Hmm.
All right, so let's talk about before we get into some of these other topics. Let's talk about our savages of the series. I think that there's one guy that we should talk about that has been picking it up really nicely as of late, and that would be Aaron Judge. And last podcast, we were talking how he was off to a slow start, but now for the year has 8 home runs, 14 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, hitting a 236 average, a 321 on base percentage, and already has a 918 OPS. And just in his last 7 games has had 5 home runs, 7 RBIs. So Judge is really kicking things into gear already, and we know that April's not been his month, but hey, Judge in this series too, him and Trout going back and forth was just as a don't even need to be a Yankee fan, don't even need to be an Angels fan. If you're just an outside baseball fan watching this series to watch them go back and forth and hitting home runs. I mean, these are two of the best players of the past generation. Sort of the crossover from then Trout, then to
Yep.
Judge, both 3-time MVPs. So Judge has been
WBC captains.
WBC captains for what that's worth. I think, yeah, Judge getting things going where we have this bottom half of the order in a difficult spot is couldn't really come at a better time, and I'm hoping this KC series this weekend we also see this level of Judge, because when Jazz isn't hitting, when Ryan McMahon is a black hole, when Austin Wells isn't hitting the way you need him to hit, Bellinger
Hmm.
has taken a little bit of a dip as well. You need to see Aaron Judge at points just carry the load, carry the team. That's why you have that level of star sometimes, is when the rest of the lineup isn't going, Judge has to carry it. It could be argued that is at some points a little bit more of an issue than we'd care to admit, but Judge hitting well is what we need to see.
Yeah, I mean, if Judge stinks or he's not here, I mean, the team stinks. That's the
You
best
can
way to
say
put
that
it.
about a lot of teams with star players, though.
Correct.
That's
Virtually
where I think
anyone outside of the Dodgers, it's like, yeah, if your Don's not on the field, the Astros are a lot worse. If Bobby Witt's not on the field, the Royals are not as good. It's like breaking analysis. Um, but yeah, man, I think it's funny too, like you say, or just like the overall, thought process in baseball is like, oh, Judge is having like slower April. April's not his month, and he's sitting here on like April 17th with a 918 OPS, 8 home runs that lead the league, and a 158 OPS plus. And you're like, oh yeah, he's having a down month. It's like pretty nuts,
yeah.
to
It
be
is
able
nuts.
to be able to like that's how good that dude is. Whereas like, oh, he should be like 200 points higher, like closer to Ben Rice territory. But Well deserved, Rob. I think it's virtually, I feel like I have to go Cabby, dude. Honestly, like
Yeah.
it's like you won us a game and you really, had all of your offensive production came in 4 games virtually. So, Cabby in this series, Rob, 6 hits, 3 runs scored, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, a walk, 2 stolen bases, and 3 stolen bases actually. And virtually won the Yankees a game, creating
Yeah.
a little bit of noise as Anthony Volpe starts his rehab assignment just as they drew it up. Um, yeah, I feel like it has to go to Cabby. I feel like without, his little moment, you potentially are looking at a much sadder podcast after a
Yeah.
sweep and then maybe lost 3 out of 4. Who knows? So yeah, I'm going to Cabby. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not putting a ton of stock into this little, hot spurt against the Angels in terms of like a shortstop moving forward decision or
Mhm.
anything. But I'm glad he's playing well. You know.
I think Kay made the right point on the broadcast in between the innings or whatever was yes, I don't think that this one series is uh giving us the picture of what shortstop will be. I
Hmm.
think that once Volpe gets back, he will be inserted into the shortstop spot. But he did say, I think it was something about Caballero, even though he hasn't performed to this level that has been excellent against the Angels, you are going to see because he's going to have to play at some point, and he's going to. I think it's not going to be. It may not be an equal split between him and Volpe at the position, but we are going to see Caballero take days at shortstop. I do think that we haven't seen in the trend of Anthony Volpe. Or in the
Hmm.
Anthony Volpe era. So that will be maybe different to us where we see the lineup penciled in. I don't know if that's like 7 games out of the week. It's going to be Volpe for 4 and Caballero for 3. So he is going to get run. It's
Still
always
gonna
going
play a
to
couple times a week. He
it's
might
going
play
to
third,
and
you
it's
give Jazz.
yeah, it's gonna that also too could be a factor. Say that third base isn't giving you any production. Say Ahmed Rosario takes a bit more of a step back and doesn't hit to the way that he has to start the year. McMahon still sucks. That may be where okay, Caballero then gets run at third and Volpe plays at shortstop. But I do. It's going to be a much different way that we've seen them shift around the positions simply because there is now multiple shortstops for the year that can play at the major league level. Uh, Play well at the major league level is a whole different conversation, but we're going to find out. So I think that's something to keep on the radar of. Well, maybe Caballero has a really good weekend, and then we're saying
Hmm. Just might get
that
him
puts
some more playing time.
yeah
It's not
that
gonna like win him. No one's winning a job, I
no
don't
one's
think.
winning a job. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So
But yeah,
um,
I think I'm excited. Like I hate to say it, but I honestly am just like I'm excited to see Volpe back, I guess. I just like what am I like Cabby played well, but the bar is just so low at shortstop that I'm like, all right, whatever. You know? But yeah, I
I
had to
wouldn't
go to
say
Cabby for me.
I'm not excited. I'd say I'm
More just like I'm excited to see you. I don't know. I guess I have a little bit of. I did have. I've always had been a little bit of a Volpe defender until like the middle of last year.
no one could be a Volpe defender after last year.
No, impossible now.
And then someone else who is very challenging to defend right now
They stink.
for our Savage Slump Watch. I'm going to talk a little bit about Jazz Chisholm Jr. So for the year now, Jazz is hitting
Jazz
179.
Chisholm.
Jazz Chisholm is hitting 179. He has a on base 179 average, 257 on base percentage, and a 511 OPS. Now, Tyler, for context of who we were just talking about in
It's not
Jose
great.
Caballero, when Jose Caballero has an OPS that's higher than Jazz Chisholm, he has a 602 OPS to Jazz Chisholm's 511 OPS. That puts in perspective how poor Jazz Chisholm has been playing to begin the year. He has 12 hits in 67 at bats. Uh, it's a problem, and I think that I'm going to preface my opinion on it by saying I do think with the warmer weather happening, and that's a conversation that we'll get into about his cold weather
I need to
comments.
make a comment on that
Yeah,
too,
no,
actually.
we'll talk about that. Um, Jazz will get going at some point. I don't know to what level it will be. I don't know if it'll be to his 30-30 season level of production, but I
It'll
do
be
think
career, like back of the baseball card, I would
yes,
think,
I
though.
think Jazz at some point will
Like
begin.
mid seven OPS, dude, at the minimum.
I think yes, I think Jazz will at some point get things going because it's baseball. He's been a professional ball player for many years now. I think
Hmm.
he is going to hit at some point. So I don't think the 179 average and the pedestrian 257 on base percentage and the 511 OPS is going to stay where it is. If we're talking about that, then it's a major problem. But I do think Jazz will get it going. It to me though, I think there is the chance, and you could tell me if you agree or disagree, it is giving us the impression now that it could be closer to and I'm only comparing it because it's the position that we've seen before. I feel like his year now is getting closer to a comparison of the disappointment that we saw of a contract year from Gleyber Torres similarly at that position of where got off to a slow start, wasn't really continued to be what we saw in his career years as opposed to what we saw from Jazz in 2025. That's sort of the impression that I'm now getting and feeling like. Now, I'm not saying that he's not going to be a piece in this lineup that makes an impact that's going to not be a productive ball player, but in a
Hmm.
contract year where he was coming in thinking that he could start demanding an 8-year contract where he would be that level of player that they view in the lineup as an essential piece in the lineup. If this is the production that he's giving, that's just it's not going to happen for him that way. And especially now, we'll talk about the comments, and I'll read them off, and I'll let you react first to them and what your impressions were because you mentioned it. But he came out saying, I don't know exact. I think he said this maybe to someone on the Athletic or one of the beat reporters, but he said about his slow start. And we knew before this week in New York, as New York residents as we are, that it was very, very cold before it then became warm. But he said, in relation to the cold weather, he said, it's cold. It's literally all it is. I'm not using it as an excuse. As soon as the weather heats up, I heat up. That's what it is. It's hard to function when you can't even feel the bat. My first impressions of that is okay, that's valid that players play better when the weather is warmer. But then
Hmm.
as us as both living in New York, Tyler, is it warm in October?
No, no, it's not, Rob.
So that's a little bit so you can say, okay, Jazz, I think you can get back and have a good year potentially and reverse your numbers for what they are. But if we're talking about long-term contract commitments or a player that and he's
Or just
talking
the
it
outlook of this season.
outlook of this season, and frankly, he's negotiating against himself in a little way because if Brian Cashman is
Yeah,
looking at this numbers and you say, well, if you want an 8-year deal, my guy,
yeah.
I don't
You
want to
can do.
commit that money. I don't want to
You're
commit that
just a
money to.
liability when it's under 60 degrees.
Yeah, I don't want to commit that money to a player that can't hit when the weather's cold. This is New York. They're going to have to play in the Bronx in a postseason game where it's
Hopefully, yeah.
brick. So, what were your thoughts on it? I thought it was a
Well,
ridiculous comment, to be
I mean,
honest.
dude, those were literally my exact thoughts. Is more so more than anything. It was like, okay, like, and I it's bad because I beg for the, whenever I'm watching the post game pressers and all the and the interviews and stuff, you always want them to give honest answers with which, like, I feel like Cole always gives honest answers. Clark Schmidt, Jazz, like a lot of these dude, like, and then Judge is more buttoned up, and like Stan gives a lot of good answers and stuff too. Weathers has been giving some good answers. He had a comment on like one of the pitches he left to Trout, and he was like, "Yeah, it's not a good idea to leave a fastball middle to the best hitter ever." And I'm like, I like that. I was like, that was a nice comment because that's the truth. Sorry, I'm going off on a spiel here, but moral of the story is Jazz is truthful, which I appreciate as a fan when I'm listening to these interviews. However, when you make the comment that like, okay, I stink because I'm cold, essentially, it's like, okay, well, like I almost don't even care what you do May through September because like our season, as you know, obnoxious Yankee fans like to think that it starts in October. So what are you going to do for me when it actually matters? And it only matters when it's cold. So I was almost just like, shut up and don't tell me that, Jazz. But then I'm like, okay, I'm cherry picking when I want you to be honest, which how fair is that? But yeah, I don't really want to hear that, to be honest. I just don't want to hear it. I'd rather him just like have that feeling and keep it to himself. Because again, like you said, he's negotiating against himself. And also
Well,
just letting me know, okay, when it's cold, I shouldn't expect much out of you.
and that it's on par with his numbers not
What were
being
his, I wonder
good.
what his April numbers were
It
last year. That's what I
it
have to look up.
his numbers are not great in the cold. And then if you look at the last two postseasons when he's played in October, he's had a few home runs here and there, but
But that's
overall
like the only thing he's done.
the production is not good. So
Yeah.
it's on.
And he looked really cold in the postseason last year.
And I listen, he played in Miami. He's from the Bahamas, so he's used to playing in the warm weather. But yeah, if you are a play and he loves New York and we want players that want to be here and want to play in New
Hmm.
York. But if you are someone that's making those comments about the cold, there's no dancing around it that Yankee fans, the organization, and maybe even their team, maybe I don't know what the relationships are, but like if I'm a teammate and I'm hearing that, I'm like, bro, we're all playing in the cold. You just gotta fucking
Yeah.
go out there and perform. And
Yeah. Like go get in the hot tub. I don't know. Go
it's just
shock your body and take a cold bath
I
before.
it's it's just not something you say. Yes, it's something. It's, as you mentioned, it's something you just keep to yourself. You keep
Yeah.
that
But I
to
think
yourself.
unfortunately, and I know I brought it up, so I am guilty of like, making that point, but to an extent it's like, yeah, if you want Jazz on your team, you're embracing like that comment. It's like all the good comments he does, all of like the wanting to be in New York, wanting all the pressure, the song and dance of everything. It's like with Jazz, you're taking the good and like the nonsense. And like
And
it's not all nonsense, but like that was a nonsensical comment.
we didn't even talk about explain his explanation about the final play at the
Oh
Trop.
God, I'm glad we forgot about that
Um,
because it just
and
ticked me
he
off,
said
honestly.
in his interview with the beat reporters afterwards, he said of that final play where he mishandles the ball, is about to tag Yandy Diaz, his momentum's going forward, he misplays the ball, and they're asking him afterwards about the final play, and he said, "I was really going to try and tag the runner and just throw it to first. I don't know what the rule is. If I went to first base and threw it back to second, if it's still an out, is it still a double play? I don't know. Does it count as an RBI?" And then Trent Grisham chimes in. He says, "No, they'll score. They'll get there before the tag occurs at second." Oh, and then Jazz says, "Oh, well, what I was trying to do in my mind probably wouldn't have worked anyway." So while I don't fully buy that Jazz Chisholm is out on the rules and is totally oblivious, it's just things like that. And where you mentioned moments ago that you take the good with the bad and you take the
It's like
comments,
shut up, Jazz.
but there are just times, and we've already experienced it now for a few years, and it could be the playoff, some of the comments in the playoffs, and it was last year when he was not benched, but he sat that first game and he turned his back to the media when they were interviewing him at the locker. It's
Hmm.
just he's going to do stuff and it's the player that he is. He's going to do stuff that pisses fans off at
But
times.
guess
And
what? If you're gonna do that stuff, you should actually hit in the cold. Just a thought.
I agree.
Do all those things and hit in the cold. I don't care.
Listen, man. And I said it before the season. And it was before he made the 50-50
And I'm
comments.
on record like saying he deserved to get paid that
And
if he played well.
I didn't even really hate the 50-50 comments. And I knew it's not going to happen, but I gave him grace because
Still has zero home runs. I just
because
realized that.
because the season before He made comments about wanting to make the All-Star team. Maybe he made comments exactly about hitting a 30-30 season. So I want to give him grace that he has said things and he has followed through. But there are times where I get really frustrated when he's talking smack before the Kansas City Royals series, talking about their fans, and then he doesn't show up during the series, or he is talking very brash about their performance in the playoffs, but he's not necessarily the one that's fueling the run for them. And I said before the season when he made the contract comments that I'm like, could I be comfortable with a 2 to 3 year contract that Brian Cashman would likely give him? Maybe. But honestly, I'm not all bought in on wanting to give Jazz significant money. But if it's for a short term deal, I could probably be talked into it. But when everything like this is now coming into as a factor, and then the play is, we've seen him not perform in October, and then we've seen these spells where when the going isn't going for him, he gets a little frustrated and then it spirals into these other moments. It's something to consider for me, and it's why I wouldn't be opposed to them not following through with a contract. And that's just me. And I don't know if other fans
And
feel that way.
that's fair, honestly. It's just, I guess my, assumption has always just been like, I'm scared as to what like second base will look like.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't think Yankee
that's
fans want to
fair.
hear it'll be Volpe. Like,
Yeah.
that's genuinely what I think.
And that's the flip side that also I'm not comfortable with, but it's when I think about that and then
Volpe,
how much
Lombard, McMahon.
I think about that and then I go, okay,
Wells.
yeah, that really sucks. Or it's okay, how much am I paying Jazz? Will he hit in the cold or not? Is he going to be
All right,
able
so
to?
this season's telling for Jazz. I can't get on him too hard because he could go freaking nuts.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, dude, if you're gonna suck for 2.5 weeks in April and then be good in October, you're good. But
Well, that's the problem. All right, we're signing up for a $300 million contract with
I
Jazz
don't
just
think
to play through May to September, and then
May to
what's
September, and we're taking time off once we get to
yeah,
October.
no, but Jazz was a bit of an issue this past. I mean, he's been an issue overall offensively, and it's not picking up. I do think he will
And
hit
I get
closer to
what
the
he,
back of his baseball card, but
Yeah.
it's an issue.
I think he will. Like you'll see, like he had a couple doubles in the last couple series that like felt like we're starting to turn. At least for me, they felt like I was starting to turn a little bit of a corner with him. I mean, the numbers are still horrendous, obviously, but it really takes a good spurt like Cabby's to kind of get you back up to treading water again. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm hopeful Jazz gets it back to where it should be. I think he will. It's Yeah, the Yankees,
Who
the
would
lineup
you
needs it.
Who would you say also? Because I went with Jazz. Who would you say is on your slump watch
Oh, I
outside of
mean,
Jazz?
unfortunately, um, I mean, it can go to numerous people, but I feel like, I mean, it's got to go to one of two. Who should it go to? It's going to go to a pitcher. It's either going to go to a really good pitcher or a pitcher that were quoted everyone wanted to trade for this year. Um, I'm just gonna go with Ryan Weathers. Even though I felt like the stuff was there, this is like such a boon moment out of me. Um, 5 earned runs, obviously not gonna do it. Um, Coming off of, I think like what was that, his third start of the year, Rob?
Yeah.
I think he had one other good one before that, and a poor one, his first outing or one that didn't, leave you very satiated necessarily. So I'm going to give it to Ryan Weathers because we're seeing the reason he was on the trade market is kind of like, okay, you've got some stuff, but when you go awry, it goes awry. And then there's also like the injury concern, but I'm going to give it to Ryan Weathers. 5 earned runs in his, the game he started in the series, and a Yankee L that day.
Yeah, I think my take on Weathers, what we've seen of him in the starting rotation, I think his stuff really does play. I think you see a level of a good pitcher, and like I told you that I just think he would be such a weapon for this pen at some point.
Could be.
I do respect that there's a lot of time to then still play out to see how that fifth spot in the rotation would go because Luis Gil has not been good. Will Warren has pitched for the Yankees a lot of innings, but still fans and maybe they aren't overly sold on him where Ryan Weathers couldn't step in and be a fifth starter if he shows some great stuff. But I do think at some point with Ryan Weathers, if the bullpen continues to be an issue, which I don't really see some magic snap of the finger fix with that bullpen, I just think that the way that his stuff plays, eventually we could see Ryan Weathers in the bullpen. But there's a lot more baseball to be played, and there's a lot more months to see. Like, we don't really make evaluations just as fans, and I'm sure the team, you got to give it until the summer months and we'll see, where we are in June. But if this pen is still in the situation that it is, and it could be some players coming up from the minors that end up being in the bullpen, like you mentioned a little earlier. But for me, I just see it shaping out that Ryan Weathers eventually will be shifted into the bullpen, and that's just my take. I do think the injury trouble in his history, we haven't seen. I mean, it's only been a few weeks of baseball, so he has
And
never.
he's young, you know.
He is young, but he's never eclipsed 100 innings in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most that he had was maybe like 98. So
86
oh,
or
86.
94 and 21 actually.
So,
My bad.
so I think that he's a prime candidate to eventually go to the pen, but I do like that his stuff can play as a starter, and I just think that he could be a real weapon out of the pen.
Yeah.
Is my take. So
I
we'll
mean,
see.
genuinely, my only concern with him in the pen is like how erratic he really can be. Like
Yeah.
he can come in and walk five guys,
Mhm.
like no problem. Or he can come in and strike out, six guys 2 innings straight with 24 pitches, and like wipe someone out. So I would love to see. I honestly, personally don't really care where Ryan Weathers ends up. I just want him to be good in his role.
Yeah.
Is genuinely the best thing I can say. So if his role is like, okay, dude, you're now the bridge to a Fernando Cruz, or now Fernando Cruz gets slotted down in the bullpen trust tree, and Ryan Weathers is your sixth inning swing man that kind of gets you into your 7, 8, 9 guys of Tim Hill, Duvall, if he ever fucking figures it out. Excuse my French. Probably should have given him a savage slump watch because he is the definition of just a consistent slump. Sorry, that was a rant right there that I didn't even feel coming, Rob.
No, it's fair.
But maybe Weathers can be that guy, and I think that is probably more valuable to this team than him being a fifth starter, where I think on a given basis, you can probably know what you're getting more out of Will Warren every fifth day than you would Ryan Weathers. Like, is
Yeah.
that kind of a fair statement?
That's my line of thinking is and two, I think to a degree the Yankees will give Will Warren a little bit of preference just because he did throw
I
them
love Will Warren. I
He
think he
threw-
deserves all the preference in the world, honestly.
he threw 160 innings for them last year, and we know that he had the blow up starts, but I do believe that the Yankees have a belief in him. And Weathers, and it's not his fault because he's the latecomer for the team on the roster in the pecking order on this team, but I think he'll get more play than Luis Gil, at least the way he's looked.
Yeah.
But I think that's the early prediction for me of how I think it's going to shake out. But I do respect your opinion that he could be someone in the pen that gets a little bit erratic. But to this point, though,
But also everyone in the bullpen.
everyone else, Blackburn and
Yeah.
Yarborough and Jake Bird, were doing the same thing. And I think Ryan Weathers has far superior stuff to those players, and that's why I make that connection.
Yeah, I just want to rule out him being like a stud in the starter. I think
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with the bullpen stuff. Is like, okay, I do want to see if this guy, if he's going to pitch to a similar ERA as Will Warren, but like be more, volatile in terms of like he could give up 5 runs pretty easily. Then push him to the pen. I'd like to throw out too, like in the first game, the Yankees won 11-10. I felt like this was a Will Warren moment where last year he would have given up 10 runs. Genuinely. And he only went 3 2/3 innings pitched, but when stuff started to kind of go crazy, he didn't like terribly explode. I mean, I know he got pulled, but again, I'm just looking at these small little W's for Will Warren because I'm truthfully in on Will Warren as like a solid five forever in my
Mhm.
head, you know?
Yeah, and then I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but is this a world too where when Clark Schmidt eventually comes back? I mean, we know Clark pitched out of the pen. Is that something that they also
Yeah.
factor in?
I don't know. Like, I just need to know what the timeline is for Clark. Like, is he going to pitch this year?
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, but also if we get we've
I
had
think,
the shocked news that Cole
yeah.
was ahead of schedule, so it it wouldn't
And
be out of the
Clark's
realm of
young,
possibilities.
like they're not, and they're financially invested in Cole for like, a lot more money than Clark.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
but like, when did Clark get the Tommy John surgery? It was August, right?
I think it was June of last year, and so his
If it's
on
June, then
track.
I think he definitely will pitch.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I have no idea what they'll do with Clark, dude. I think here's something also, and just I won't get too far ahead, but I think the Yankees think Clark Schmidt is like a really good starter. And I'm not gonna lie, I do also think that. Um, he's just honestly Ryan Weathers in a way where he can't stay
the
on the field.
yeah, no,
He's never been able to stay on the field, to be honest, Clark. Now this is a comparison I never thought of. I mean, he's had 1 year in his career, Rob, where he's thrown over 85 innings. 2023, the Yankees' biggest waste of a season since I've been on this earth, arguably, is when he threw 159 innings. So I don't know how. I just realized they replaced Clark Schmidt with a Clark Schmidt 2.0, one that just throws harder and strikes him out more.
yeah, from the left
Um,
side.
Wow. So very, very cool discovery. This is me discovering something in real time. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what they'll do with Clark. Could they put him in the pen? Sure.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, yeah, like when Clark starts, dude, like he's pretty good. Under
that's a
three ERA. I'm not,
that's a September problem, but we'll
yeah.
it's something to think about. We're
Yeah,
getting
put
ahead of
Clark in the
ourselves.
pen.
One last thing before we sign off. I just think we've talked about how underperforming players like Jazz and then Trent, who had a good week but is picking it back up. Um,
Mark
but
July, Tommy John. Sorry.
Austin Wells is continuing to be a problem. I mean, he had his first home run of the year. He only has two extra base hits. Um, but it's hard not to get frustrated when you see this lineup continue to see uh Randall Grichuk playing, JC Escara playing, and not be just. And I know it's April, and I know that I knock on wood that we're not going to be seeing these players around, but I mean, Escara catching is just not giving you any confidence. Randall Grichuk, I think, has just been getting way too much playing time. Does he even have a hit yet? I don't think he has a hit.
I don't know. Let me check.
I'm pretty sure he
Um,
doesn't have a hit to this point. And so,
negative zero point 0.3 WAR.
oh, he did have one hit
He's
on
got
Tuesday.
one hit, yeah, one hit and a
One hit on
walk.
Tuesday. So
Negative
I
30 OPS
I'm just
plus.
going to, as a fan, and I'm sure a lot of other fans feel this way, is I really hope that the Yankees, because you made this point before the
I gotta
season
say something
started.
rude too after this.
Okay. You made this point before the season started that the Yankees are hopefully, because of what we saw with Volpe and some of their other parts like the DJ and Jazz stuff at third base, hopefully they are in the business of recognizing things while they play out, that they're quicker to nip things in the bud. And I really hope that they're watching Randall. I don't think Randall Grichuk should really be on this roster more than maybe
I
another
don't think
week.
he will be by June. I really don't.
I hope he's not on this team in like 2 weeks.
Tomorrow,
That's
tonight.
my max. And then JC
Yeah.
Escara, I get it. There's like
Well,
some
that's
JC
yeah.
Escara, I get it. A lot of fans there. He's a nice story going from Uber Eats or Uber driving to then being on the roster and making his way up. I think he could be a good uh, in a pinch situation where you have him in AAA, and then if one of the catchers gets hurt or something like that. But it's just an issue where you're watching him and he's another left-handed hitting catcher, and they only have left-handed hitting catchers, and it's something that they should have solved over the winter that they
And
just
they all
haven't.
the front office admitted it too. It was like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have had like two lefties.
And
It,
he seems like a nice guy. He really seems like a nice
I don't.
player.
I'm done caring how nice he is, Rob. The story has been has been good. He's 31. I'm tired of hearing how much promise the Yankees see in
Oh
this
my God,
31-year-old
the
left-handed
top
catcher.
15 comment by Boone last year
Yeah.
of
It's like, no, no, no. This is his age 31 season. And he's never given anyone anything to look at offensively. He's a 565 OPS in 46 games with the Yankees. And honestly, Rob, I can't blame him entirely because, yeah, the guy that plays once every 6 to 8 days is not going to keep his bat. Like, he's not going to have a he's not going to feel comfortable when he comes up to bat. So at that point, just bring me a right-handed catcher that's going to suck the same amount. That's all I got to say. At least it's a righty at the plate rather than a lefty, and we have a platoon drop catcher. The only thing I can say with like Grichuk and the stuff is like I don't think Boone has figured out how to juggle. He has so many platoon options. I think he's getting too fucking platoon happy, excuse my French again, where he needs to learn how to balance it. Like he doesn't have to play Randall Grichuk. Like he
yeah,
just doesn't.
yeah.
He can play, but then there's like the point where like Trent's not too good against lefties, but like I don't know. He needs to like relax with like
Giving them run.
all the platoon. Like just I feel like he's forcing a platoon sometimes.
Yeah.
Where
And
it's like,
and
oh well, like put Grichuk in, put goalie. It's like
there
no.
and I know you're not gonna have an all-star at every position, clearly, but some of these players just they have to be major league level players, and it's just they're not. Randall
They
Grichuk at
can't
one
be
point
whole.
was. JC Escarra really wasn't at some. He had nice moments last year, but that is where we say they April games still matter, right? They still really matter.
They matter in
But
the outlook of your team. You know,
yes, because arguably you could say last year's division where you miss it's only a separation, very minuscule, and things like that where you're running out lineups where you have JC Escar and Randall Grichuk at times is an issue. And so I just hope that we
yeah,
don't see them for far too much longer, but I have a hunch that we're gonna. That's
yeah.
my
Like I'm fine with like if you want to use the bad platoon bats, like use them in a pinch hit situation where you really don't have much of another option. But we do not need to give, like you said, Grichuk 3 at bats in a game just because blank is on the mound.
He's hitting
Um,
091, 348
yeah,
OPS. Jeez
really
Louise.
bad, man.
Really bad.
Um, I just stumbled onto the Red Sox baseball reference page.
They have a doozy.
Garrett Crochet, man.
Yeah.
Bad first round pick out of me in my other fantasy league. That's all I got to say there. You think the Red Sox think April games don't matter?
I don't know.
Willie Abreu is like a stud, though.
So to this point, the Yankees are second in that division. Speaking of the Red Sox and everything, so game and a half behind Tampa. This weekend they'll go play, or they'll stay in the Bronx, play Kansas City tonight at 7. Schlittler versus Waka. Tomorrow on
Michael Walker's
Saturday,
still pitching,
Warren
man.
versus Cameron, and then on Sunday it'll be Weathers versus Reagans. And Kansas City's starting
Reagan's is
rotation
nasty.
yeah, Kansas City's starting rotation is nothing to forget about because they pitch against the Yankees pretty well. So this is going to be off a series where the Yankees had some disappointment, and really the last 3 series, it'll be a challenge for them. I don't think Kansas City to this point is necessarily any world beaters. I mean, they're 7-12, but again, the Yankees are playing 500 ball right now, so they can
Yeah.
be beat as well.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing, they've seen those Kansas City pitchers many times, so I hope to get, something positive out of that. But then, you can see Gosman forever, and he owns them. So
Yeah. We're going to find out. But that is it for this episode 239. Make sure you subscribe to stick around for more Yankee talk. Be sure to leave a comment what you think of this Yankees team, how they're
or the
trending.
Mets.
or the or the Mets. See what not New York baseball is in a little bit of a challenging spot to begin April.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And go follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, as well as X. That's it for episode 239. We'll catch you at 240. Peace.